about 7 years, and I'm shooting this video because there's so much misinformation out there about actually how to trade and what you should do. This is going to be a very high level video to just teach you basic market concepts. I'm not going to get into anything particular. You see, I have no technical indicators on my chart. You really don't need them. They just kind of help you. But you kind of have to understand just the general market flow in general. So if you're trading anything, options, stocks, futures, whatever you need to do, you always want to start with the higher time frame. Any stock that I pull up, it could be Nike, it could be, sorry, I have all these alerts going on. It could be Walmart, it could be anything that I'm looking at. I'm always looking at the daily chart. So right now I have the S&P 500 put up. This is usually what people use. If you're just starting, this is usually what people look at to gauge market sentiment. You can look at the SPY, which is the top 500 stocks, companies, I think it's by market cap. You also have QQQ, which is similar, but it contains tech stocks. And then you also have the Dow Jones, which most people don't. I think it's DIA. Here we go. People don't really look at the Dow too much, but the Dow is actually very important to look at as well. So a lot of people also use candlesticks. I use bars. What I will do for you guys, I will change this to candlesticks because a lot of people just use candlesticks and that's what they're familiar with. So first things first, you always want to go to the daily chart. So let's just say I'm looking at SPY here, right? Overall, the first thing that I'm going to look at, I mean, if you really want to take it to the next level, you want to look at really like the weekly and the monthly charts, but the daily is usually enough, especially since I don't really need information from '03 to make a decision on what I'm going to be doing on the next day. So it's always good to look at the weekly charts. However, though, so pretty much exactly what I'm looking at here, we have this overall uptrend in the market, right? The market is clearly in an uptrend. In the near term, however, what is this? This is wave action down. This is a bearish trend. We are currently, I'm not going to get into drawing these trend lines and doing all this, but you can kind of look here and you can say, all right, technically we have some trend line, we have some resistance. I'm pretty sure if I put some moving averages, we're probably under those moving averages, etc. This is what is going to give you market sentiment. If you're looking here, you're looking, we had this big rally day. That's when Trump was said he will pause the tariffs. But now we've kind of not have been able to break over that day's high, and we're kind of just sitting in this zone here. So what I would gather from my experience is okay, either we come down here and then maybe we could test up here and then we kind of go lower, or let's say price does decide to hold here and maybe we do break out. I would think we'd go here and then maybe some type of little pullback to go back to highs. Just because of the sentiment, though, I'm not really looking much for the upside. I am really looking for the downside, at least for us to test these lows. I don't think they will make the market easy, but I'm just giving you kind of some things that I look at and overall looking at the market. I just want to shoot this video because a lot of people online, there's a lot of different things. There's a lot of look at the 15, the 1 hour, the 4 hour. What I do and what I have been taught, and I've been trading for a while now, about 6, 7, 8 years. I've had many mentors. I've traded anything from small caps to large caps to options to futures. And what you always have to do, you could be trading Forex, crypto, anything, you need to understand what's happening on the daily. If you look at what's happening on the daily, now you have the ability to go down and say, okay, if I'm looking bearish, let's go to, now a 15-minute. All right, if I'm looking bearish on the S&P 500, now you can start looking at your levels and start drawing your support and resistance, but you have to get all of this because you can't just pull up a chart and look at this and think that you know what's going to happen. You have to get the overall sentiment. So, another thing that I will point out that I look at is I'm looking at all these highs here. Boom. All these highs. I think that's a misprint, but all these highs. And if you look, we're making lower highs, which is a big characteristic of something that's trending down. We have this high here. We have a lower high, and then we have a lower high, and then we have another high that's lower than the previous highs. So that is also getting my sentiment. Now, if we do break above, let's say this 532, 535, then we could be looking at 540s and 550s and higher. But what I will be looking for next week is us to trade lower. I'm looking at these supports here, and there's a lot more than just drawing support and resistance. I'm just doing this as a kind of a very rudimentary level of understanding for everybody. But yeah, I would imagine I don't see us really breaking this high. Maybe we crack it, grab some orders from up here, and then head down. But I would be looking for us to test this. But I'm getting this all off of looking at the daily chart. What I also would do, you can look at the 1 hour chart and you can see the same thing. Now, if you look, the 1 hour chart is actually giving us more bearish signals. Boom. This is the Trump rally day. We still didn't break that high. We didn't break that high, etc. Now, the only other thing that I will say, play devil's advocate, because for my own opinion, is that we had this up move and we are holding here, which could be, signs of a bullish action. But just judging from the daily chart, this is kind of what I'm leaning. Now, I just want to shoot this video so you can understand essentially the correct way to look at markets. I learned from a guy who used to trade on the floor, very technical trader. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you're a technical trader as well. And you don't need all these fancy tools. Volume is cool. I do use the 9 EMA often on a lot of my charts because it assists me with entries and things like that. But how I usually trade, I go from the daily down to maybe an hour, 15-minute, and then I usually base most of my decisions off the 5-minute. Occasionally, if I'm scalping, I will go to the 2-minute, but when you're trading large caps, you don't really need to go under 2 minutes because you will get faked out a lot. So I just want to shoot this video, to see I'm sorry about all these alerts. I have these alerts custom set up. I will make a video on that. I did use AI to create certain alerts to alert me for different things that I'm looking for within the market. But that is just kind of my market insight. And guys, always look at the daily chart. The daily chart is going to be your lifesaver. Everything that we talked about. Hey, if we get under here, this little yesterday's, quote unquote, this low here, then you definitely have potential to see these downsides here. And possibly even go back and test this 500. Now, do we make a new low, or do we kind of bounce from here and then, make another little lower high and then go down, or do we just bounce altogether? You have to let the market tell you what it's going to do. Don't always jump in front of the market. If this video was helpful, definitely, leave a comment, like, subscribe. Let me know what you want me to hear. Let me know what you guys are having, quote unquote, issues or questions about. I've been really quiet. I've been trading for a while, and I feel like, hey, I'm traveling right now. I'm kind of doing this world tour, so to speak. So I feel like, hey, I have extra time on my hands. I have another business that I do run. It involves wholesale trade, but I'm really want to actually show people the correct way to trade. So if you have any questions or anything, drop a comment below, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I appreciate you guys for tuning in.